Hi, welcome to Splash and Go. I'm your host, Nate Ryan, here with Kyle Petty, back here at NBC Sports Charlotte. And Kyle, coming off an off weekend, NASCAR heading to Talladega Super Speedway, where Ford has been really successful recently, have won 7 straight races. Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano combined for 5 of those wins. Stewart-Haas Racing dominated last October, leading 155 of 193 laps. Is it the teams in the case of Stewart-Haas? Is it the drivers in the case of Keselowski and Logano? What's the reasons for Ford's dominance?
A little bit of all of that, I believe. And I'm not sure that dominate is the proper word. There's got to be a word above dominate for what Stewart-Haas did last year. I mean, unsung. They
made it like farcical, basically.
Have never seen anything like that in this sport, period. But I think another element in that we have to throw in is Doug Yates and those Roush Yates engines. Doug did an interview with Doug not long ago, and Doug said, people talk about Talladega and Daytona being a crapshoot. He said, we look at it as an opportunity. We look at it as an opportunity to go and beat these other guys who think it's just luck. It's not luck, it's preparation. So you look at that, and I think that's part of it. I think the teams that Ford have, I think the drivers that Ford have, nobody's better than Brad K and Joey Logano. Nobody, period. End of conversation. They must have studied every race at Talladega since the beginning of time. And I think that if we look at the Chevys and we look at the Toyotas, they seem to be stronger at other racetracks, especially the Toyota, but there they just don't have that raw speed and that raw let's go get it car that the Ford has. So, you know, it's tough, man. And obviously the Fords are tough, because we saw at Daytona this year the secret meeting between Toyota and Chevy. We're going to team up on Ford. You know what I mean? So the other manufacturers, when the other manufacturers are willing to let their guard down and come together to combat you, that's a pretty big statement.
Right. Well, the secret meeting worked at Daytona. Denny Hamlin wins the Daytona 500 after this collaboration between Chevrolet and Toyota. I don't know if we're going to see that this weekend at Talladega. I don't think it's the similar type of racetrack, but I mean, Chevy could use the help. If they don't win this race, Kyle, Chevrolet will be winless through 10 Cup races for the first time to start a season since 1971. They have 2 second-place finishes this year, but both of those were on short tracks. So what's the deal? Yeah. I mean, like, is Chevrolet going to win anytime soon?
Okay, and this is what I will say, is that as you look at, I think the short tracks, and you talk about the 2 second-place finishes, short tracks are the great equalizers.
Right.
It takes the weakest link and brings it up and makes it competitive. That's where Chevy is right now. You are the weakest link, okay? Talladega is also known to be a place where the weakest link, meaning an underfunded team, can capitalize and win that race. We've seen it so many times. So maybe this is a place Chevy can break through. I remember when I drove in the last century, you go back, every manufacturer's cup, all for the 10 years, you know, it's like you would get it in 1990, but they already had one on the shelf that said 1999 Manufacturers Champion, Chevy, because you knew Chevy was going to win the Manufacturers Championship.
Right.
Now they're not even close. Now they're not even close. And I'm not sure what their problem is. I think part of it is the rebuilding and looking to the future of what Hendrick Motorsports is doing right now with their drivers, with that young group of drivers. Chase appears to be the bright spot over there. The Ganassi team has one car that's fairly decent. Childress is on the rebound from being really off the pace the last few years. So I just don't think the Chevys have the same strong teams, strong drivers that the Ford camp have.
Yeah, and Chase Elliott was the second-place finisher at Martinsville. Kurt Busch was the second-place finisher at Bristol. So you listed the 2 drivers who have been their bright spots this year. I mean, is that indicative that the fact that those come at short tracks, where, as you said, driver maybe makes more of a difference than car, is that just a sign that maybe it is just the cars, or is it maybe a little bit of a dearth of talent here in the driving lineup where Chevrolet maybe isn't as strong as, you know, we were talking before about, you know, the Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson years where they would win the manufacturer title every year?
Listen, I think it's both, and I really do, because I think you look at, I think Chase is coming up. We've seen Kurt, past champion, last year as consistent as he's consistent this year. We know that Kyle Larson's career has been like this. Then you throw in William Byron and Alex Bowman and some of the younger drivers they have, they just don't have that base that a Jimmy Johnson. But Jimmy Johnson's on the backside of his career. He's coming down the backside of a mountain. So they're just not in the best place. You take their lineup of drivers and put them head-to-head against Logano, Brad K, Kevin Harvick, Eric Almirola, you throw that Ford group out there, they just don't match up in one-on-one competition.
Well, we'll see how they match up this weekend, Talladega Superspeedway.
Hey Motorsports fans, thanks for watching. Make sure you hit subscribe before you go for all the latest news and highlights across motorsports.